Hey, everybody. Welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Stephanie Gillenkirk, a financial expert who simplifies financial operations for small businesses in construction and service-based industries. With her strategic insights and modern accounting techniques, Stephanie empowers business owners to achieve sustainable growth while she handles the numbers. How are you doing today, Stephanie?
I'm doing great. How are you, Anthony?
Pretty good. It's been a week already, and it's Tuesday. Staying busy, so I can't really complain. It's definitely better than the opposite. But really enjoyed our conversations that we had before. You're doing cool things, and there's people out there that should meet you. So I was happy to have you on. Excited to have you here to kind of share what you're doing. But to start off, just so people get to know you a little bit, where are you calling in from? Where are you located?
I am located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm originally from the Detroit, Michigan area. So that way, kind of a couple different locations people might be familiar with.
Okay. Are you newer to the Pittsburgh area, or you've been there for a while?
I've been here 15 years now. So I moved down here approximately 2008. I moved down here approximately 2010, and then I've been here ever since in the area.
Okay, awesome. Well, if you have friends coming into town, where are you going? What are you doing for fun, and where are you taking them for dinner?
Typically there is tons of food here, tons of like local restaurants, couple places that have originated. My friends, we typically stick to the chains, unfortunately, just because they're easy to please everybody. But I love there's a couple different places here in the north area that I enjoy going to, such as Burgatory. They're fantastic as far as like burgers, shakes, that type of thing. And then we're going out. There's a couple different cool like bowling places or like pins places that have popped up in the most recent years.
Okay. Throwing shade at your friends there. Not the most adventurous crowd. No. That's funny. So awesome. No, that sounds good. What Burgatory? I think we talked about that last time we chatted, and I was like, I gotta look at Burgatory.
You might have actually, because I had them the other night. That's why I brought it up. It is a custom burger place where you can get different meats. So it's not your everyday, just ground beef patty. So you can get bison, you can get elk, you can get deer. So just different types of meats, and then you toppings and all kinds of other goodies make a nice good burger. And then you pair it with a shake. And then if you go if you go into the restaurant, you can make the shakes boozy. So you could add alcohol to them. So that's a good pairing. So an alcoholic shake with, if you love ice cream and you like a good drink, it's a really good night out.
Sold. Right. Got it.
Right.
All right. I'm done. Awesome. So
it's one of my favorite places to go to. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. So besides being a spokesperson for Bookkeeping, what do you do?
So I am a fractional CFO, a one-stop accounting shop for small businesses, especially in the construction and trades industries. So I help them transform their finances so that way they can grow.
Okay. Is this something you always wanted to do, or, how'd you get started here? What does that story look like?
So I have my accounting degree. I took accounting 101 in high school to get out of trigonometry. And that turned into my college major. So I got my degree, and then I couldn't really find work. I was a really big poker player at the time. This is right around when poker was real, all the rage online and virtually. And there was all kinds of different poker games that you can find on TV. That's what I was getting at, on TV. This is when the height of it. And so a friend at the time was like, become a poker dealer or a casino dealer for about a year or two, go deal in Detroit. And I couldn't find work there. So then that led me down here. So I opened a casino down here, ended up dealing for 7 years in games. And then when COVID hit, COVID is kind of what pivoted me back, because then the customer service industries got really bad. And at the same time, I was watching a lot of business owners, they were just throwing their money away. And, they were throwing it away at the casino, but then they're also throwing it away, in their businesses. So, if they're translated over playing games day in, day night, multiple times a week, multiple times a year, what are they doing in their business that's gonna, make things bad, decisions over there. So I then decided to pivot back. I got into the accounting field, got a position, and I said that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to start my own firm, which was a childhood dream. So like I did know when I was younger, right? When I was younger, I was like, I'm going to have my own firm someday. And so just little by little, I just started to build my book of business. And then I went on my own last year.
That's awesome. No, that is a very unique story. There's not a lot of people none that have that one. That's a interesting perspective that kind of led you there. I like that. So what is it that you love about what you're doing now?
Alongside the casino world, I also had side hustles too. So like I had like business, I dabbled in everything. I was an Uber driver, a Lyft driver. I delivered everything underneath the sun that you could think of, like Amazon, DoorDash, you name it. And so I had did some MLM, direct marketing type services myself. So I had small businesses. And then, so I've lived it for 10 plus years myself on top of watching other people. And what I love about it is going into a business and seeing like if, prime example, I have a mechanic who they just love to get their hands dirty. They would much rather have their hands inside that car as opposed to, in the back office doing the work or the paperwork. And then when they're doing the paperwork, they're bringing it to you when it's all full of grease or full of smudges. And as I'm sure you drive, right? So like when you don't like having all that kind of grease. So if we can work out a process to where you're doing it either more on the computer or like in this case, he had his wife come in and she started doing the computer work for him. So I taught her, and it's changed things completely because all he has to do is he's still right now everything, greasy smudges, but with the refined process of her doing everything with the payments and, they're given the person with the car an actual clean copy as opposed to, full of grease and, chicken scratch that you can't read because they cannot write either.
No, that's awesome. Let them be good at what they're good at and then, figure the rest out and create those processes that are,
And pretty much, efficient. And that's exactly the way that they're coming to you is that they, they're great at what you're doing. They're great at their job. They're great at, getting their hands dirty. But then the back end of businesses is typically where businesses tend to take the back seat, right? Because they'll worry about the marketing later. They have the referrals. They'll worry about the bookkeeping when it's tax time. And then they're coming to the tax person with a shoebox, and it just creates a cycle. And then at the end of the cycle, in the middle of that cycle, and they're like, I wish I knew what my numbers were. And if they are able to look at the numbers, then you can actually make decisions and, go from there as opposed to once a year, if that. And then you're leaving a lot of money on the table too, because did you remember to collect your invoices? Do you have any invoices that are, outstanding still? If you're not caught up, you don't know where you stand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what does your average avatar of a client look like? Or what are the pain points that somebody might be dealing with that if they're going through XYZ, you're the person that they should be talking to?
So I tend to work with a lot of construction contractors, tradesmen, like I said before, just because my dad had a flooring care business growing up. So that was one of my very first people I tried to help. He, for 20 years, he never raised his prices. And afterwards, for quite a long time, like, Dad, raise your prices, you're worth it kind of, situation. I have a couple exes that were, in the trades, helped transform them. So just people who I relatively automatically attract is who I do. But I love working with them because the language is simple to, to relate to and from. They like simple language. Average avatar, I have a no jerk policy, right? Because knowing there's still quite a few people out in the world that can be jerks. And so that's kind of where the poker thing comes into play, where I can good judge a character, make sure, because if if you want transformation in business, you're going to want to have those tough conversations. And a lot of times there's that barrier where like they don't want to. So that's kind of where the no jerk policy comes in. Aside from that, 200K in revenue and above is typically where I stand up with a couple million, up to a couple million in revenue. It kind of varies a little across the board. And I have multiple different industries as well. So it's not just the contractors. That's just who I naturally gravitate towards me.
The no jerk policy is the main thing that a lot of people need to, implement, right? Because, you might feel like, oh, I need the business, but do you really
Right.
need to put up with a jerk? Probably not.
Well, and there's if you want to get kind of spiritual on things too, if you continue to say yes to people who really don't align with your values, then you're keeping the people away who are really for you. And then that way, like, because otherwise you're just stuck in this cycle.
Yeah, no,
Not to
absolutely.
go too woo-woo.
No, you're right. I mean, even not woo-woo. They're just taking up a spot where somebody that you actually get along with could be, right? It's just time allotted. If you're spending 5-10 hours a week working on this guy's stuff and he's a jerk, you'd rather spend that same amount of time working on somebody that you actually like. So absolutely, I get it. So what about power partners? What are good, other professions or professionals out there that you synergize well with or find a lot of collaborations with?
So quite a bit in just B2B space typically, since that's, who I typically serve as B2B. So anyone in the B2B space, so marketing people, attorneys, HR people are fantastic. PEO people who they handle. So I do some of the payroll, like depending on like it's one of those things I'm starting to phase out more as far as handling the actual payroll, but I can white label it, so to speak, to where I can, they handle the payroll HR aspects, and then I would be, the other financial areas.
Okay. And because you see them all the time, you're always talking with entrepreneurs, you're an entrepreneur yourself. What advice would you give a new or aspiring entrepreneur?
A new or aspiring entrepreneur, it would probably be to separate your personal and your business mindsets and finances ASAP. So it's a different type of mindset going into business where you're going to separate, because at the end of the day, a business is a separate person from or a separate entity and can be treated as such. And when you start to commingle funds and finances, you can get in a lot of trouble, especially in like lawsuits. If you are set up, like, for example, if you're set up as an LLC and there is a lawsuit that happens and you're commingling funds a lot, then the judge could easily say, hey, you're not a LLC, so they could actually have that corporate veil lifted, and then your personal assets you thought were completely safe because of this, LLC, they could be up for what's the word? They could be up for grabs essentially in a lawsuit in that instance. So the quicker that you kind of put that in your mindset that it's completely separate, and then the same thing with your so only buying business stuff with your business cards, only buying personal stuff with your personal, then it helps you get into that mindset a lot faster. And then that way, that you're, peace of mind at the end of the day.
No, that's fantastic advice. A lot of people overlook that. It's like, well, I have the piece of paper, I have the LLC. Yeah, but no.
No, I mean, especially because, like I said, in a lawsuit, they could easily pull the finances. And if they subpoena the finances and they see that a lot of that's happening, and it's one of those things you don't know what's going to happen. And it's an easier way. So think of the quicker you can get into the CEO mindset for that, regardless of if you're a solopreneur, small teams, 50 people, the easier it is actually even to transition to then that way you can say, okay, I have these funds in the business, I have these funds in personal, because it's an easy transfer of money, especially this day and age. It's not like you have to go to a physical bank, pull out the money, and then go in. It's a lot of times, I know, especially on my bank, it's literally a couple, couple buttons essentially through the app.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can small businesses simplify financial operations to better their cash flow management?
How can they simplify? So that number one is the commingling. That part's huge because a lot of times if you're commingling, it could be getting into that's a lot of extra work on the accounting side that you have to do, to whereas if you're just doing business in there, it's a little easier to remember as opposed to multiple things. There are, in this day and age, there's plenty of apps out there. So for mileage, get a mileage tracker. There's some great ones out there. They give you an Excel sheet at the end of the year. Mine that I technically use, it gives you the Excel sheet, but then it gives me the breakdown. So like middle of the year, it'll tell me how much I have sitting as a deduction for me for mileage, which is fantastic. So that's a simple one. And mileage is overlooked in businesses because people are thinking they're swiping the card and that's, for their gas, and that's the way it should be. But there's a lot more that goes into that mileage calculation. Another one would be streamlining your invoicing system. So like there's lots of solutions out there. If you're using QuickBooks, and then you could, so I live in QuickBooks, and so you could do your invoicing through QuickBooks, and then there's payment process, either QuickBooks payments themselves or a third party one that kind of integrate with it great. And as opposed to Square and Stripe don't. So just kind of streamlining things further is great. And then a little education as far as what a profit and loss and balance sheet are. So like, for example, I have a resource I call Financial Playbook, where it looks like where you, it gives you the outlook of what financial statements are from a gaming standpoint. And that's kind of where, because everyone can relate to a game as far as people know how like the ins and outs of football. This is kind of similar. So like the profit and loss, for example, would be, you look at it as like a scorecard at the end of the game. So like, player A has this many points. That's your profit and loss.
Okay. How can strategic bookkeeping help businesses grow?
So strategic bookkeeping can help businesses grow by like I said before, where if you only wait once a year to give your accountant or your bookkeeper, tax preparer, your receipts and such, you're not seeing what you can do in the middle of the year. So at the end of the last year, what I did was I offered a tax planning session so like it helps you get set up for 25. And we went over the finances of where they stood for 24. If there was any last minute deductions that they could take or, take advantage in 24, and then in moving forward in 25, what they can do to, to maximize them in the, future. And if you wait to the last minute, if you wait till after the fact, you can't take advantage of any of that. So great, so planning throughout the year gives you time to be a little bit proactive in your taxes.
Awesome. Yeah. No, for sure. You really don't know what moves you can make unless you know where you're at, right?
Exactly. Yep.
It's like somebody asking for directions, and they're like, "Oh, I want to get to Des Moines." You're like, "Okay, where you at?" I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Good luck.
Exactly. And it's really like that. It's literally trying to navigate a map blindly. And especially if you're in a city like Pittsburgh, that you need the map. Like it's terrible out here.
Yeah. It's important to stay on top of it because there's options or, opportunities that are coming your way that you might be missing. So no, that's fantastic. That's fantastic advice. So I know we could go into the weeds about a lot of this stuff and you've seen it all, but is there anything just in general that we missed that maybe you wanted to add?
I would say, I think we're good actually.
Yeah. No, that's perfectly fine. No worries. There's other people are going to have questions. So, what is the best way that they reach you? Where can they find you?
The best way to reach me is so any of my social media channels. But email is probably their best bet because they'll get to me. So my email is Stephanie@pittroe.com. Do not spam me. I will block spammers. But Stephanie at pittroe.com, I have a free consultation call that they could hop on my calendar for questions. I'm happy to answer, just knowledge is power.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to know where you're at to draw that map. So that's fantastic. I'll put all that in the description. We're going to make it as easy to find you as possible. If anybody's thinking of getting hold of Stephanie, do it, right? You need to know where you're at. Have that consultation. Find out exactly where you might be able to find some help. You're going to walk away knowing more than you did going in. So do that. Reach out. If anybody would like to get a hold of me, you can visit me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Stephanie. If you or somebody you would know would like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But really, I appreciate you coming on, Stephanie, taking the time, kind of going over this with us. You have a unique story here where you're able to come in and, going from, being a poker dealer to being a poker to helping people with their finances and not letting them gamble on what they're doing day to day. That's super awesome. And I really appreciate that you're doing that. So let's all go have an awesome day. Go out and grow our circles. All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure.